Hello everybody, welcome back for another episode of the Stokes Sound podcast. I'm your host, and today we have special guest all the way over from LA, Brian Goddard. Brian, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. Yo, thank you for having me on your platform, bro.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it and appreciate your time. It's incredible to have you because you're so talented at mixing. And I thought today we would talk about how to make your mixes interesting. So, Brian, talk a little bit about yourself, about what you do for our listeners to hear, and then we can kind of go into the topic.
All right. I'm a native New Yorker. We moved to South Jersey when I was younger, so I can have like a better education. I got into music through my brother, because my brother was a music producer. So I always sat like in the garage because that's how everyone started. I was always playing the video games because I was the younger brother, but also sitting around, seeing how everything worked. Once I got older, I was like, I think I might want to get into this. So I thought I wanted to be a music producer. And my brother was like, nah, that's not your vibe. Like, you're good, but that's not you. You need to learn engineering because you'll always have a job. So I was like, all right, fine, let's try it. He had a recording studio at this time in South Jersey, about 15, 20 minutes outside of Philadelphia. So I started learning off of Pro Tools. I think Pro Tools was at like 6.7 at that time. It was a long time ago.
That is a long time ago, yeah.
Yeah. So I've been on Pro Tools. I went to community college, transferred out of community college, got into NYU. I was in the Clive Davis music program. Had the upper leg, met a lot of connections. That's what college is really meant for, meeting network connections. I met a friend, like a family friend. His name is Prince Charles Alexander. He's a college professor at Berkeley, but he was teaching the summer course that I was taking at NYU. So he found out who my brother was, and then we always kept in touch ever since. So that's a little backdrop on me. And then my great friend brought me out to LA, and my life changed completely.
How is LA? Is it as good as people say it is? Because everyone says you go to LA and it's going to be incredible. How is it? How have you found it?
Well, I come from a hustling background, so it was very simple for me. So just to adjust, you kind of realize who's going to be in your favor, who's you're not, but at least they'll give you a chance. So that was my opportunity. I just executed. I was mostly assisting my boy Stan. He's in the next room across from us.
Nice.
He was a mixing engineer, Grammy nominated. And then I was assisting him just so he was showing me the ropes, how LA works. But I was also booking my own sessions because I had experience. So, and then everything, like I said, everything changed there. I went from getting placements to recording the sessions. And then if I do get a chance to mix it, then I was mixing it. But at least I was staying active. I came out to LA with a part-time job because, it's not cheap out here. They told me it was supposed to be like New York prices, but I was like, no, it's not.
Is it even more? I didn't know that. Is it more than New York, LA?
I don't think it's more than, like, you get more for your money out here in LA, but it's like some of the properties that is very questionable.
Especially or like the Beverly Hills area.
Yeah, like I want to be over there, but I'm in downtown, so I actually like downtown because they gave me that New York vibe. They do need to clean it up a little bit, but eventually it'll get there.
Fantastic. Well, you're very good. You've had a lot of experience, and so one thing that I thought would be really interesting is to kind of talk about, funny enough, is how to kind of make your mixes sound more interesting. We all, as engineers, we know how to EQ, we know how to compress, we know how to add reverb, but there's also a creativity aspect of mixing to make it more pleasant for the listener. Every mixer is going to mix differently, and kind of what makes every mixer mix differently. If we're all using the same tools, everyone's ears are different, so that's one reason why mixes always sound different. But as yourself, what do you find that you do in your mixing workflow that, I guess, one that kind of makes you different from other people, maybe, and also what techniques do you use to keep yourself kind of excited about mixing and making the actual track even more exciting by certain mixing techniques and things like that? I know there's a lot of questions
Oh no,
just there, but just like an overall
that's
thing.
amazing.
It's so if we start with your mixing workflow, and then we can go from there.
All right. Most of the time I'm recording it, so I'm already prepping it how they want it, like the vision that everyone agreed on. So I'll execute it. So I feel like as our job, recording or mixing, they're giving us the canvas to paint the details of what they wanted. So you just got to understand, like, if they say you have full range, then you could do whatever you want. But I tend to bring it as close as how they like it. So if I am mixing it, it's like I don't have to do as much now. So it's more fine tuning everything. For me, definitely get it how it sounds. And, if it's been recorded one way, make sure it kind of stays the same. Because if you make any slight changes, you're going to get a whole bunch of email notes. Or if they come to your studio and they have a whole bunch of feedback, you kind of don't want to do that because now you're wasting time.
And it's a never-ending process.
Yeah, you're just like, gosh.
3-4 days in, still mixing the same thing.
Like, yeah, no, I try to keep it super simple. Like with my plugin chain, just to speed up the workflow, I actually been scaling off of certain plugins because I'm like, if I can't get it to sound good with the most simple way, then it's like I need to like redo myself of engineering, because the idea is not try to load up as many plugins to get a certain sound. Try to get the sound you need with as less as possible, and then everything else can be like air candy sprinkles from there.
That's amazing that you said that, because the amount of times that you either open up more, either amateur mixers or new mixers or producer mixers, and they load up and there's like 20 plugins on like a bass guitar, and you're like, does it need 20? No. But it happens, and it's easy to get carried away. I mean, so
exactly.
do you have any like plugins that you tend to use as like your go-to like all the time, that that no matter what mix you do, you're gonna always use this certain plugin? Do you have things like that going on?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think everyone does. Definitely when it's you're helping to bring the creativity to the song. I tend to use FabFilter.
Love it. So do I.
FabFilter. Yeah. FabFilter is, to me, is very simple. Also, it sounds really good.
Yeah,
sounds really good. So I tend to use them. They're like my go-to. I've been bouncing around reverbs. Let me check. Yeah, Valhalla is that's what I tend to mostly use. And then I'll do like a smooth plate, do that, and then I just use science and math on getting the reverb time, so it sits in the pocket.
You've just opened up another whole topic there, which is brilliant, about reverb time and settings, because that is like the number one question. People are like, well, what should the decay be, or what should the pre-delay be? And it's like, so you do it in a mathematical way. I mean, I personally, I'm not very good at maths. I know it's a bit like I'm mixing all the maths, but I just go by the ear, and I'm sure you go by the ear as well. But you do actually use some math, with the BPM, some maths involved in your pre-delay.
Yeah, it's important to get the tempo and make sure the tempo is correct. Sometimes songs, are not really truly quantized, but I make sure I get it as close as possible. The fact I just like how I mix. Some people say I mix a little bit too clean, but I rather have it clean, and then I can dirty it up if they give me notes.
Amazing. Can you tell our listeners in what way are you finding the reverb time? Is that with the BPM and the pre-delay that you're working out, or?
Yes. So I'm not the best at math, but I would use my phone.
I put you on the spot there, haven't I?
Yeah, I was like, so I'll do this because this is at this time, and then I'll divide it by the tempo, and then that would normally give me what it is, like timing wise. And then if you feel like the decay is a little bit too long, then just divide it by 2. It will actually brings it back down, and that's how you can also get your pre-delay too.
Are you using multiple reverbs on one thing? So, for example, like a lead vocal, do you have like a plate and then a big hall, or do you, again, you mentioned about keeping your mixes clean. Do you find that you're just using kind of one reverb only, or obviously it will change?
I bounce between one or two. Two at the most. Everything else is, if I'm mixing majority of like hip hop, R&B, reggaeton, but it's like I keep it really simple because most of those songs are going to mostly be, if it's not vocal heavy, it's going to be the drums and the background vocals if it's R&B. So it's just you gotta pick and choose your battles.
Yeah. And what ways do you keep your mixes, I guess, interesting from time to time? Do you have any specific techniques that you're using in general?
Right now I've been using a lot of reverb throws versus like a delay throw. I've been doing that. I did that on the artist Saint Bodhi's project that I mix. It has a lot of like reverb throws.
Amazing. How come you chose to use a reverb throw instead of a delay? What made you decide reverb?
Because the spacing that she was doing on the vocals, I like, using like a 1/8, like it was like, I was like, I don't like how it's drowning into the vocals, and what she was coming off of next was like very important that I think the listener should have heard. So I was like, yo, let me try this, and then it sounded really good. I end up, what plugin did I use? I
was going to say, spill the beans, let us know.
Yeah, I think I used I used the little plate from Sound Toys.
Oh, that is a really good plate. I use that on electric guitars a lot, actually. That is a really good reverb. It's surprising, actually. You wouldn't, I don't know. Everyone always goes for Harla. But
that one I was like, ooh. And then I just play with the mix knob. And then I was like, all right, if I'm going to do this like automation wise, I'll just set up an aux and set it there. And then I'll automate it to where I want it to go.
So you're just doing it on kind of certain words throughout the track that you want to, I guess, express the space. Nice.
Yeah, definitely when I do like the rough mix and stuff like that. Yeah. If I'm doing the rough mix because I was tracking it, so I'm basically setting up the engineer, whoever, if it's going to be me mixing it or whoever's going to mix it, at least they'll be like, all right, we definitely know this is important. So we're going to keep these effects.
Yeah, that's it, because it can lose the vibe straight away if you take away all the effects and reverb and delay. And I've mentioned before in previous episodes that the vibe is everything when it comes down to mixing. It's just as important as the song.
Hey, this is LA. They want candles lit. Your room gotta be clean. Like it's very important. Some people would sage the room.
Really?
And I'm like, oh yeah, I have people like that. I'm like, oh, this is very earthy.
Does it make everything sound better?
I guess so. They keep coming back, so I have no complaints.
You're doing something right.
I tell people, I'm like, I want this to feel like you're home. I'm like, I'm just here to help you get the best takes possible. If we're comping or you feel mighty confident you can get it in one take, even though I would prefer less comp, whatever works.
Amazing. So that's really, like, you've also mentioned about kind of making sure that the person that you're working with feels comfortable working with you. And that is just as important as anything, whether it comes down to technical side, production side, mixing side, recording side, any side of what you're looking at. If the person feels comfortable, then I believe you're going to make a great job no matter what.
I treat them like my best friends. After we record, I'm like, let's go get something to eat. Like, I understand that it's business, but I also treat it as a friendship because, hey, you're supporting me, so I don't have to work a 9 to 5.
And as well as being fantastic at what you're doing, that's also probably why you're getting a lot of clients and you're getting regular work, because you're providing that extra level of professionalism, I guess, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, that's what it is, because you never know that they have friends that might need somebody, and they're like, "Oh, my engineer does this."
That's the thing, you never know, especially in LA. You never know.
You're like, okay, so like I said, it's better to be like the full package, and then if people say yes, you're gonna get a lot of no's. You just gotta don't fold under pressure. It takes time, definitely, when people feel comfortable with you.
Yeah. So when you're, we mentioned actually about reverb and delays and stuff. Do you ever add So if you add a delay, do you ever add reverb to your delay so the other way around a lot as part of your workflow as well?
Yes, I actually do. I do. It depends on the vibe of the song. Definitely with Saint Bodhi, I did because
Yeah.
the vibe was very spacey. So
Do you keep
she,
that delay reverb in the same reverb that you're putting the main
no, I'll do
reverb
a
to, or do you
separate one.
use a separate
Yeah,
reverb,
yeah,
and that's
separate
just to put it in
reverb
its
for
own
that.
space, I guess?
They put it in its own space, yeah. Because like I said, it's cool to go by the book or math, but sometimes math is not going to be the vibe. So sometimes you can bend the rules. That's the best thing about engineering. There's no
There's
wrong
no
way or
rules.
perfect way. There's no rules. We hear new stuff like all the time, and then we like, ooh, how they did that. And the idea is to find out and figure out. But you might come across something that might sound even better than that.
That's the
So
thing, you never know. It's like a good thing and also a really bad thing, because like, I don't know about you, but like I find that I have plugin after plugin after plugin. And it's a bad thing because you spend like, let's say you're mixing for 6 hours, you're probably spending an hour. I mean, I don't do it as much anymore because I've mixed a lot, and I'm sure you're the same, but it's a bit overwhelming. Sometimes you're like, do I use Soothe or do I use a multiband, or do I what do I do?
Oh gosh. I've been playing with the multi-bands a little bit more, but the funny part is I've been doing a lot of Dolby Atmos mixing. And
Oh, that's interesting. How are you finding
that's a
that?
whole different beast. It's funny because everyone needs it. Or, some people don't understand it because they stuck on Spotify. But I was like, hey, you have Apple Music, Tidal, Amazon. Like, I actually prefer to listen to music in Dolby Atmos.
Do you know, I haven't done Dolby Atmos yet. Not yet, but I need to get into it. Is your whole workflow different? Or, I mean, I guess it's
Yeah.
still the same kind of techniques. It's still mixing, but are you changing any major things at all from stereo?
No major changes. What you will do is basically, you get the full mix stems or master stems. I actually know how to master in Atmos too. So from that, I basically keep the mix how it is from the original because that's how they would prefer it. Um, Only thing I might add is like simple little delays that sound like it's in, behind your ear.
Like a 360 image.
Yeah, it's like you'd be like, "Oh, I heard something." You like, I'll do something like that.
How are
But
you?
most
How
of
are
the
you
stuff,
doing that? If you did want to do that, what would you? How are you creating that? You're just using like a normal Valhalla delay, for
yeah,
example, but just in.
yeah. I always normally just use that. Use the timing, and
Yeah,
then you pretty much automate it, and then you just work from there.
fantastic.
Yeah. With Atmos, it gives you more range to do stuff. But I feel like people that will understand it, they're going to start recording different because then you'll give not just the mixing engineer more flexibility, but you're going to give the Atmos engineer. But most of the mixing engineers are becoming Atmos engineers.
I've noticed. Yeah, I still need to get onto it. But have you got multiple speakers then? Multiple monitors
No,
for
I
it?
do. No, I actually mix off of the Apple headphones that I'm using right now. And then what I'll do is go to my friend's studio in Echo Park. That's not too far from here. And he actually has an Atmos room set up.
I was going to say, yeah, because are you hearing it in? I guess you are hearing it in context because you're going to him. But if with just the headphones, obviously they're stereo, aren't they? So you're not getting the full, the full image. But that's great that you can do that because
Yeah, because
I need to get into it. It's just more monitors. It's getting more expensive.
Yeah, at that point, when I heard how much it cost, I said, "Yeah, I already spent a whole bunch of money on my barefoot speakers. I'm fine."
Yeah, especially if you go PMC for Dolby Atmos.
Yeah, I'm
same
like,
price as a house.
yeah, I'm like, at this point, I'm like, shoot, I'm like, heck no. But I was like, hey, if I get the mixes closest on the headphone because the Pro Maxes are able to play Atmos. I think the Pro 2 earbuds and the regular 3s do.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So are you? So if we just talk about the usual stereo mixing, I mean, I'm sure again it translates over to Dolby Atmos as well. But what ways have you found? Let's say in your last 10 mixes, for example, what things have you done that's made it more interesting for every mix is always a bit like a science project, so it's always a going to be fun and interesting. We love what we do, but there does become a point where you are always doing the same thing and you want to change things up. So let's say in your last 10 mixes, have you done anything that has created one more interest for you and two more interesting for the listener? Have you what kind of things have you done? Any techniques, any tips and tricks that you want to give away?
Oh yeah, shoot. I would say the one song I actually mixed it in like August, but it finally came out like 2 days ago, and I was like, I came across it on IG, and I was like, what? I made that
must be
song
a nice feeling.
Yeah, I was like, dang, no one tagged me or nothing. I came across this on the Explorer page, but
no one tagged you. Oh, you should be like, no, you've got to tag me. Be in the contract.
I made sure. I said, oh no, don't let this song is actually really, really good. So the approach that I did with it, I heard the rough mix. I always ask for the rough mix when I'm actually, when I start mixing it, just to see where they were going. Then I also want to check to make sure the stems sound exactly how they sent it, because sometimes some people are in a rush to send stuff. So when I heard it, I already visioned like how I would want it to sound, and I took a gamble on it. So I was like, hey, I want to make it a little bit wider than what I would normally make it, but still had the vocals sit more in the front, but the drums were hitting. And I had them drums pretty good. So the approach I tend to go with it was make sure the drums are hitting heavy, because if the drums don't hit heavy, you normally get notes like turn the drums up or something.
Yeah.
And then I made sure the percussion was very a vibe. So I made that stand out a little bit more than the hi-hats.
In what way? Volume or saturation or?
I did more volume EQ, because I felt like the percussion kind of had a little bit more low end than the kick drum, and I made it feel like it almost like a 808 almost. Like, it was weird how I did it, but I was taking a gamble because I was like, hey, I'm doing this mix for free just so I can land this client, because he has a distribution deal with SoundCloud. So I'm like, hey, let's see what's going to happen. If this could be a future thing that looked like it's going to be now, let's go.
Amazing.
It wouldn't hurt me. So that was the approach that I ended up going with. The song it's called Hood Favorite. Yeah, it's called Hood Favorite by Chad.
I'll have to check that
out. On SoundCloud now. And it's, like I said, it's a whole vibe. Like, I was shocked. I was really shocked.
Amazing. It's so good when you just do like interesting things that you just kind of go against the rule book, because percussion, the first thing people are going to say is roll off everything up to a 50-60 hertz or whatnot. You kind of have the opposite there.
I did the whole opposite, because I was like, I think they had the shakers and then the toms, and them toms had more low end than the kick, and I was like, how is this possible? So I said, I'm going to use this and kind of blend it into the point where it kind of sits really good in the pocket.
Did you use any effects on it, like reverb delays to kind of, or you just literally did EQ? Wow.
No, I did compression, and then EQ and volume control on it.
That's literally the fundamentals of mixing, right?
Yeah. I didn't add no reverb to it. When I do like my Latin music, I tend to do reverb on the percussions and stuff like that. So
yeah.
I feel like it's almost like genre pick. You just got
go with what you're feeling, with what day it is. Do you know what I actually did? I did a video about this on my IG page, but I used Pan Man on, I think it was percussion, or was it? I can't remember now. It was a backing vocal or percussion. And like, Sound Toys Native Pan Man, just creating this kind of like image of this percussion kind of starting here and kind of going to the left. It was just one of those things. And I was like, that's a really cool thing to do. Just shove a room reverb on it, stick it in the mix. People are like, Ed, what was that you did? It just sounds really big. It's like,
yeah, you like
just panning.
Exactly, bro. Like, panning's very important. I love Pan Man too. What other plugins do you use, Ed?
I'm using Valhalla. My favorite delay would be, it used to always be Echo Boy. That's really popular, but I'm loving the Valhalla delay, because I love the I've forgotten what it's called now. It's like it adds the reverb. I can't remember what it's called, but it's got like a button on it you can just pull up, and it's just amazing. It just kind of it shoves it into the back and has like a widen. It seems to kind of widen it, which is really nice. It just saves widening stuff. So loving that one. Acoustic audio. I like the compressor. L-Ray.
Yeah,
using that a lot. But I use the basic stuff, to be honest. FabFilter Pro Q3, Arvox, simple stuff. Otherwise it's just too many. And the UAD Pultec I use a lot. I like the UAD Pultec.
Gotcha. Yeah, I wanted to jump on the UAD bandwagon, and then I realized all my friends have it, and I said, I gotta be different.
I love it.
I was like, I gotta be different. I was like, everyone has, the Apollos, and I have an Orion 32, so
yeah.
I was rocking with them, and then that's about it.
But all plugins these days, I feel like they're all doing the same thing. That I Plugin Alliance I like. We're not sponsored by them. We're not sponsored by any of the ones we're talking about. We're just literally talking about how great the plugins are. But the Plugin Alliance,
I had to use my own money.
I know. Yeah, I've got the Plugin Alliance subscription that I pay for, and that is probably one of my best purchases that I pay for each month. I use a lot of their stuff. Yeah, it's definitely worth it.
I might have to look into that, because I use their plugins. I use the BX V3.
Yeah, I use that on my mix bus. Yeah,
the mix bus. Yeah, I use that. What else? I use something else from them.
Just one of those questions that when someone says, "What plugins do you use?" It's like there's like 1,000 in your brain. And you can't quite get it out.
I feel like I'm scrolling through my Pro Tools. I'm like, this. Yeah, I use this, and this. Oh my gosh, half the stuff I don't even use.
I'll tell you what, talking about do you ever use Kush Audio? The AR1.
I was using the Iron.
Yes, yeah, that's good. Yeah,
I was using the Iron.
Yeah,
I actually like that one.
Yeah, that's the thing. Whenever you get a new plugin, you just put it on. You don't always quite know how to use it. You just go, yeah, does it sound good? Yeah, it sounds good. Leave it there.
Right. So that's hilarious.
So do you do any, so you talked about kind of delays, reverb throws to create the mix more interesting. Do you do any widening? I know we just touched upon panning, but do you do any widening at all to kind of create this depth in mixing? Especially new mixers, everyone always wants to have this 3D mix image, and people always go, my mixes sound a bit flat, I want to create more depth. And obviously there's reverb, all the general stuff, reverb and delays. But do you do anything that I guess maybe not many people do, or isn't popular to do, just something that's, I guess, different that you do to create that kind of image in the audio? Again, another massive question. I'll put you right on the spot.
I said, ooh, that's a good one. I want to say I do definitely widen my delays, even on my master, my master bus. Like I feel like sometimes I might make them a little bit too wide.
Yeah,
because I have everything sitting in the center so much. I'm like, oh, let's move this out the way. With my delays, I've been doing when I've been doing delays, when I've been doing the delays, I've been doing the ping pong effect.
Oh, okay, like a quarter note ping pong.
Hit each note. Boo, boo. I've been doing that. And then to spice it up, I'll put a flanger on it, just so it sounds a little bit interesting.
Yeah, and choruses as well. Phasers, there's all sorts you can put on them, isn't there? The only thing about some of those plugins, I find they add noise throughout the whole track.
Exactly. That's why I have to go in and be like, I'm going to do it right here.
Bypass. I love it. Just look at the Pro Tools session, the automations, bypass, unbypass, bypass.
Yeah. I have friends be like, bro, why you do that? I'm like, you don't hear that? And they're like, ooh, yeah, okay. Yeah, you right.
Do you know what, actually? Do you know what I've been doing lately, which I saw another mixer do? I think it was an incredible mixing engineer, Josh Goodwin. He added, he had you may do this as well. He had a half note, quarter note, and an eighth note delay. And they're on 3 separate auxes, but they're all routed to the same send. Yeah, so 1 send, so 3 aux is 1 send.
Yeah,
and then he would
I do the same thing.
Yeah, so he'd put it as 0, Unity standard, and then he would then on the return lift it up. I think I'm getting that the right way around. And he would blend all the 3 in like that instead of having it as a quarter note, eighth and a half note as separate things. And I actually started doing that. And for some reason, like, I don't know if you found this, but not all songs need to have all these delays. Sometimes it just needs to slap and that's it. But what I found by doing it this way is you would accidentally add a quarter note, add an eighth, add a 16th, and which you probably wouldn't have done if you were doing it separately, but you kind of do it because it's in my template and it sounds really good and it suddenly has this space, and I would have never have added a quarter note delay, but actually by adding this quarter note delay tucked under the eighth note, works really well because it's a different delay plugin, let's say. Whereas before I wouldn't necessarily do that because you'd be like, well, I'm not going to do it all separately because it's just too much. So it's interesting. So are you doing that kind of thing as well, where you have all your separate delays as one insert?
Yeah, I have it going that way recently because I saw the same video you're talking about, and I was like, "Oh, let me try this."
Oh, you saw it as well? Amazing.
Yeah,
we're all looking at the same thing, trying to steal each other's tricks.
I was like, I saw that the other day.
I love it.
Yeah, so I haven't got to actually try it like on a mix yet, but I will open up a session and like import and then start it from scratch again if I have time.
Yeah,
because it's very interesting how that works.
Well, I thought you would get phase. I didn't think it. I was surprised it kind of works so well because I thought if you were going to put all these 3 different plugins into one, I don't know. I just thought there'd be some sort of phase, but it doesn't. It seems to work. I mean, this is in Pro Tools, so it seems to work, really well. But it's just a different way of workflow, and you just have everything on just one aux, one insert on the send, and it's just. Yeah, it's just a different way of doing it, I guess. And you kind of fall into things that you just wouldn't have done. I mean, I did a mix yesterday and I did exactly this. And I just started putting like choruses, like what you were doing, wideness just underneath. And then I'd use like an Echo Boy of a Harler and then H delay by Waves. Got 3 different delays. H delay doing the ping pong, Valhalla doing the eighth, and, something like Echo Boy doing the slap. And it just created this like a load of sound. It's like when you mute the lead vocal, it was like you just had this whole like effects kind of going like in the back. Right. I just wouldn't have done that if I was to set it up manually. So yeah, it's interesting.
It's very interesting because like I said, different workflows work for different people. And then it's like, you just got to take in consideration like what you feel like it would be better. And like, me trying this new way is like, I'm eliminating extra channels, so it's making my template look even more cleaner.
That's it. Organization is key, isn't it?
Yeah, you gotta be organized and color coding.
So, as far as effects go, then that's one way to create interesting mixes. Do you do a lot of automation across your mixes? You see some mixers and there's barely any automation, and then you see other mixers and it's just like a page of just automation.
Yeah,
Are you an automation kind of guy?
I have for it depends on the song. More
that's the thing. R&B, it all depends, isn't it?
Yeah, with R&B, yes, definitely yes.
What kind of things are we talking? Volume automation, or are we talking? I'm sure there's a mixture.
I don't really. It's a mixture, not much volume control, because I kind of rely on my compressors to control that. If I'm recording it, I know everything's going to be perfect. But, some people tend to record at home, so you're going to get it all over the place.
Yeah. Especially when there's like no outboard compression or anything on vocal recording, and it's just like...
Yeah. You like...
Lots of clip
get it, you like, ooh. That's funny. I go through 1176, so I'll have my the mic. Well, I'm using the warm audio mic right now, but I tend on R&B I tend to use my Lawson 251, so I tend to use that. But automation wise, it's really been the reverb throws.
Yeah,
I make it very spacey. I do that just to control it because when I do it like just regular, it kind of drowns out whatever the next word could be. But if you just automate it and like kind of doing it by hand, phenomenal, because it's like it feels more natural.
I just want to highlight that point there you've just made.
Yeah, that
being
point
control.
right there.
Yeah, because anybody listening, honestly, from me as a mixer and as Brian, as you as a mixer as well, like the control of plugins, effects, reverbs is a major part, because people go, how can I get my mix to sound really big, really reverby without sounding muddy? Well, you've just said the answer there.
Yeah, it's all about control. So, and it's the vibe of the song. And like I said, anything slightly off, you're going to get them notes. You're going to get the notes. So
less revisions as possible.
Yeah, try to keep it true to yourself. If you feel like something's off, maybe you might have to walk away. Go get something to eat. I live in downtown. Sometimes I'll walk to Whole Foods and then come back. And then be like, all right, cool. All right, let me hear this. And then I'm like, yeah, that was off. Like, nah, let's redo something. Maybe
what
that's
was
not meant to be there. Yeah. There's nothing wrong walking away. Then come back. So.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, like, it happens to the best of us. You're like, that sounds like a cool idea. And then, like I said, after a while, you're like, I don't know. I might have to question this one.
Do you know what? I did that the other day? I used I was doing a really famous thing of, it was a chorus just wasn't hitting hard enough, so I just used Alter Boy by Sound Toys. I think I put the octave up or lowered the octave. The general, the really popular trick, and it just sounded dreadful. It was just like, and I woke up the next day because before I sent the mix off, and I was like, what was I thinking? Why did I do that? It just didn't work.
Did it almost sound like some Travis Scott stuff?
Yeah, but it wasn't. It was like this acoustic song. It was just like so not needed. But I just think I got to a point where I was like, okay, how can I make this mix more interesting? What can I do? And I guess maybe I ran out of ideas on that day. And I just thought, I'll go for that one.
Happens.
But
I would say maybe future reference, use Melodyne.
To do the octave up or octave down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and find the key. And then if you need it, I would do that.
Interesting. Do you not get a lot of artifacts? Well, I guess if it's blended in the mix, then
I'm super tucking it in, like if I'm doing it.
Yeah, you're not making it the lead vocal.
Yeah, no, don't make that. Yeah, nah, that joint be like, ooh. Nah,
goes to the chorus.
Right,
it's an octave up.
Yeah,
I just tell the client I just wanted to surprise you.
Like I did that because I was like, yo, it needs like the artist, she sung it very like one way, and I was like, yo, I need a low end. And then I tried Alter Boy, and I was like, I tried the doubler. That also sounded like Travis Scottish, and I was like, that's not gonna work for her. So then my boy told me, he was like, yo, just use Melodyne, find the actual key, but you're going to have to super tuck it in because it's going to sound kind of, weird.
Yeah.
So I said, all right, cool. And I tried it, and I was like, it actually worked. Cool.
Interesting. That's great. I mean, that's the thing. Sometimes you just do things and you're just like, oh, it just works, sounds good, and you just use it on the next track or, whenever you do something like that. It's amazing. It was funny, actually. I remember seeing an engineer. I can't remember his name. It might have been on Mix with the Masters. It was a fantastic engineer mix, and he was using the Waves pumper or fatter, the Waves pumper.
The pumper,
on the whole music.
The one knob.
Yeah, one knob. So it got to the chorus, and he put this plug-in on, and then the track was just pumping, but very subtly, and it just gave it this energy of interest in the mix. And I was just like, that's just a genius idea. I would never pump. I mean, I never say never, right? But I hadn't a thought of pumping the whole mix only in the choruses, or it was a genius idea. So I don't know if you've done any of that kind of stuff.
I haven't, even though I have the plugin. But I'm like,
after this episode, you're gonna try it.
Yeah, I'm watching. I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna email you like, bro, that actually works.
You do it. I have to find. I'm sure it was on Mix with the Masters. It was a video, and it just put it on the all music bus. I don't know how your mixing template is. And for anyone listening, if you've got an all music bus, just try the Waves pumper.
The one knob.
One knob pumper, yeah.
Pumper, yeah.
And just put it
That's
on,
it.
just again use automation, put it on in the chorus.
Yeah.
But-
'Cause I think I would use that if I was doing like house music. I think I would definitely use that on
Yeah.
something.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna ask my
Interesting.
boy Kenny. He got a room on the other side. I'll ask him because he is gonna have us mix his new project. So I want to be like, hey, can I do this?
Yeah. It might make or break the mix.
Yeah, we'll find out. I'm like,
You have to let me know.
bro. I'll be like, yeah, he said don't do that.
I'll be like, okay, I won't ever talk about it again.
Right?
Or delete the podcast.
Oh gosh.
So
That's a vibe.
so what else do you have anything else in your workflow that you do to create any depth, any interest in your mixes from time to time? Is there something you do on the occasion at all, or I mean, I guess you keep it quite
saturation.
clean. Saturation,
Definitely
yeah.
Saturation. Yeah, I use Fab Filter, saturation too.
Yeah, is that the Saturn?
And yeah, the Saturn too. Yeah, I'll use that, and then I use Ozone, but I just use their imager just to get it more width.
Is that on your mix bus, or is that just on certain things?
Yeah, on my mix bus.
Yeah.
And at the end of that, then I'm just using. It depends on the song. Like I'll use the Acoustica. What's that tape plugin that they have? I forgot the name of it.
Oh, I'm useless at names. I know the one you mean though. Is it good?
Yeah, it's good for gives me like if I don't like the Saturn 2, I'll use because it's basically saturation. But you can click on the presets of like what you're trying to go for. And it basically EQs it too in a way, and then I'll just roll off on the mix knobs.
Amazing. I have to try that.
Yeah.
Are you mastering your mixes as well, or are you sending?
Yeah.
So is this all
I
part of your
definitely
mixing
do that.
chain then? So you just have the limiters on after that, I assume, to bring up to volume, and then that's your mastering done. And for anyone that's listening, usually we keep the mix bus on. Obviously, it would depend from engineer to engineer, and we'll just take the limiters off before we send it to mastering. But however, Brian, do you do that, or do you do something different? If you were to send it to a different mastering engineer, would you be taking your Ozone imager off and anything else off?
Yeah, I take. Well, it depends on who's mastering it.
Depends if you trust them.
Man, I had
That's another story.
Yeah, I had some stuff where I was like, "Where the drums go?" Like, I'm like, "Y'all turn this down, and who'd approve this?" But if that's what they wanted to go for, that's what they want to go for. At the end of the day, so what my imager obviously, and then I use the K clip.
Okay, Clipper, yeah.
So
Clippers are getting more and more popular. I find I'm seeing a lot of people using more because Clippers was always one of those things. Loudness for let's not always try and get it so loud, but everyone seems to be having. I actually use the T-Rex clipper and the Fire acoustic audio fire clip.
Acoustic Fire. I was going to use that one, and then I came across the K Clip 3, and I said I actually like this one better. So I ended up
really. I have to try that. Who's it by? K Clip? Is it K Clip or?
Yeah. I can't even pronounce that name. It's like. Because whatever, but yeah, you type it in. Yeah. Just type it in.
Is this going to be another plugin purchase that I'm going to have to buy?
I want to say it's not that expensive because I was surprised. I think it was I think it was under $150.
That's not, considering these days the plugins are getting more expensive.
Yeah, they're getting more expensive. If they're not expensive, then they're like, you can get the subscription, and then you're like, dang, if I don't pay for the subscription, if I got to open up an old session, I can't even use the plugins because they're not going to open. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Well, there's only one thing we can charge more for our mixes.
That's what I be doing, and everyone's like, "Hey, man, I'm independent." I'm like, me too.
You got to make sure now that the mixes are really interesting.
Heck yeah! Like I said, I want people to come back because at the end of the day, I used to have a 9-to-5 job, and I left it and moved to California. So,
yeah. So, I've got a big question for you then. What makes your mixes different if somebody else was to mix, as we discussed before, that everybody mixes different because everyone's got different ears. But in your mixing style and what you do as mixing, do you feel like when you mix a song, you can hear it that you have mixed it? And if so, what is that you're hearing that's making you feel like you've mixed it, even if you've forgotten that you mixed it?
I like, I'll compare like my friends' mixes to mine. And like I said, I tend to notice like I'll tend to have a little bit more width-wise on my mixes, and then my drums are a little bit more heavier, but it depends on the vibe of the song. My drums, and I make sure the kick or 808s and the snare kind of like evens out, because I've heard people have like, like a snare super low, but the kick super loud, and you're like, we could have raised that snare up just a little bit, but
just
whatever.
Really off balanced.
Yeah. And then I've been told that I mix clean, and that's a good thing or a bad thing. I keep getting mixes because my turnaround time. Other than that, my whole thing is just making sure the client's super duper happy at the end of the day.
I think
if
that's
they
the
have
main
notes,
thing. Yeah.
I get to them notes so fast that they're like, how many other songs you're doing? I was like, well, I was just working on one, but I need to step away. But hey, you told me that you wanted these two things changed. I can do that right now. And I already emailed it to you.
Amazing.
So now I'm just waiting on you to approve it now. You're not waiting for me to do it. It's like the whole opposite. I don't like when people waiting on me to do something, because I'm like super reliable.
Yeah, and you don't want that added pressure of a backlog of loads of mixes to get done, or that you have done that just are not completed.
Exactly.
Worst feeling in the world. I did that in my younger years, where it'd be like, oh yeah, I'll do that tomorrow. Did I? No. Did it the following day?
No.
But now I'm like, I'm mixing full time. I don't have time to just not do certain things. You just want to tick it off and and obviously do the best job you can do, which is what you're doing, and that's why you're getting all the clients that you're getting. And it's great that you touched upon actually turnaround time, because I think that's one thing that doesn't really get spoken about much, I find. I think turnaround time is super important, in the sense, if I'm a client and you're mixing a project of mine, if your turnaround is quick and good, then I'm going to feel like you're more involved in the process, and you're going to feel better about it as a client. So I think, and I'm sure you feel that as well with your clients. They see that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Because, if you're supposed to be mixing a song, but they see you on IG partying, they like, wait a minute. They're like, are you supposed to be mixing my song? Like, you'll get some clients, friends to be like, hey man, how's that mix going? You're just like, yo, it's going very good. I'm gonna have it to you by tonight though. Thanks for reminding me.
Just leave the party early.
Yeah, you're like, I gotta go. Don't even tell people that you're leaving. You just walk out. Like, but at the end of the day, it's all fun and games. You're supposed to have fun with this. But yeah,
that's the thing, and there's no right or wrong way, is there? That's the thing. It is literally, there are fundamentals, as we've touched upon. You don't want to overload bottom end on a mix, because it's just not going to play well on phones and whatnot, and you're not going to be able to get it loud. But if you got the fundamentals right, you go creative with it, and that's what I always say to people. So, it's great. So. Coming to the end, I want to ask you a question, and I ask all of the people I have on the question, if I remember the question, that is.
Dale.
I've said it a lot, this question, but can you give our listeners 3 things that you know now that you wish you knew when you started out?
Oh my God. All right.
Sorry.
So the best part was when I learned how to build my own actual template. When I first started, because like I said, I started when it was like Pro Tools 6.8. I don't think they had this feature, but I think they probably had this feature more like around like Pro Tools 9, that you can open up your template and just load it up super faster. I wish I knew that when I was like 18, 21 years old. I was like, shoot, I was been able to speed up. Because the only thing I had that everyone loved me for was like, he always knew the tempo of the song. So when it came to flying hooks, like he was already flying the hook while he was recording. That's the thing that I'm like, damn, if I knew that back then, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I would be on point. So definitely that. More about relationships, maintaining relationships, even with older artists that started with you from the beginning. That's a big role, because I watch artists that I recorded back in New York, and now they're like super famous, and I'm like, damn, if I kept their phone number just to be like, hey man, how you doing? I hope everything's going well with you. Happy New Year's. I would, something like that. That would definitely work. And then the third one, what would be the third one?
You're answering these really well. Some people are just I don't know what to say.
This is because it's a learning experience that I feel like people tend to overthink it. It's not something to overthink. It's like, hey, this is what happened to me when I was younger, and I made sure I fixed that real quick. When you're going to start working for a professional studio, the biggest thing that I learned was make sure you learned your shortcuts to the point that you don't even use the mouse. You just use the keyboard at all times. Because you're going to deal with artists that move so fast that if they waiting on you, you hear them go, oh, you ready yet? I don't want them to say that. I don't want them ever to say that to me ever again. I made sure that was a habit.
That's amazing. That's good. Anybody listening, please take his advice on all of this, because they are all things that, in industry-wise, knowing all your shortcuts is probably in the top 3. Definitely, you've said it in your top 3, but it really is, because as an engineer yourself, recording engineer, mixing engineer, you are waiting on certain, sometimes people to record a vocal, and if you don't get that captured in time, you could have just lost out on a brilliant vocal.
Yeah, you can lose a client, and then that client could tell other people like, yeah, he's good, but he ain't that good. And you don't want that.
Yeah.
Because, we can do promotion, but truly your most success is going to come from word of mouth. Hands down, they'll say, definitely. Because I deal with artists that he came in, didn't write anything. He was every 4 bars, but you have to be on point.
Yeah.
So if he's coming up his head with the melody, and then he's writing 4 bars, just imagine how fast he's going. And he wrote many hits. So you're just like,
so you got to be on point.
You have to be on point. So
amazing.
Well, and then also making sure you don't delete your files. So make sure you just keep making playlists. Boop boop boop. Keep making playlists.
I've had that. The last thing I'll say, I've had that once years ago. I remember for some reason I didn't accidentally delete it. I think I just labeled it wrong. It was just organized. Mm-hmm. And today I still can't find it. And it's just like the worst thing. In the most stressful thing in the world is someone going, hey, can you just send me that track we did like a couple of years ago, or whatnot, and then we just need the backing track, or we need the vocal up +1 for something, or whatnot, and it's like, oh, I don't have it, and you're like, what'd you do? I've only ever had that once. I learnt my lesson. Never again.
Never
but
again.
We're all human. We all make mistakes. It does happen.
Some people have to learn the hard way, but you will learn the fact that you will never, like you said, that ain't gonna never happen again. Like I said, that's not gonna happen again.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. Can you give out your social media tags? Say them just for our listeners so they can hear.
All right. I go by BG the Engineer on IG. Same for my website, bgtheengineer.com. My name's Brian Goddard. I'm just a cool guy, bro. I just do engineering, and that puts me in my happy place at the end of the day.
Amazing. And if people want mixes done by you, what's the best way? Is it IG or any of it?
You can find me on Engineer Ears, bgtheengineer.com. Also, Engineer Ears, BG the Engineer, or IG if you want to, DM me, and then we can have a full conversation. I actually answer back.
Amazing. So any of you listeners listening to this episode, he's super talented. We're super lucky to have him on. So if you are thinking about either having any mixing questions, or I guess want to get a mix done, then I'm sure if you go over to his IG or website, wherever he's mentioned, then go there, check it out. And I'm sure, as he said, he will respond to you. So enjoy. Thank you so much, Brian, for coming on. Really appreciate your time.
I appreciate you, my brother.
was an absolute
all the way
pleasure to
from
have you
London,
on.
man. You know, this is far, far away.
We'll have to get you back on for another one at some time.
Oh, heck yeah. Maybe I'll bring some friends too. So then,
Sounds good.
So like a group of people.
That'd be amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, bro. I'll catch you later, man.